Yes guys, so welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be continuing to backtest gold over the 2021 price action, going from the beginning of the year all the way up until the end of the year so that we have an entire year's worth of data on the strategy. And if you guys are new to the channel, I'm also going to be walking you through the full step-by-step trading plan and system before we get into the backtesting itself. So let's not waste any more time. Let's walk through the trading plan first and then we'll get into. Alright guys, so for anybody new to the channel, let's just do a quick rundown of the trading plan and system that we're going to be testing. If you've seen any of my previous backtesting videos, I'll put the chapters at the bottom of the screen so you guys can skip through to the backtesting itself. But for anybody new here, step one of the trading plan, all we're essentially doing is looking at higher time frame market structure and direction. And to begin with, I'm doing this on the daily and H4 time frames just to kind of get an overall picture and overall view of what the macro term direction is. Where is price heading? What is the trend? Is it bullish? Is it bearish? And then I'm only simply looking to take trades in line with this trend in order to get the highest probability setups only. And this is one of the things I also emphasize to everybody inside VIP, which is that in order to become consistently profitable, right, and make a decent amount of money from trading, it's not about how many trades you take, but it's about focusing on only A+ quality setups, which come around, 5 to 8 times per month. And then looking to only capitalize on these setups is going to massively help your trading rather than, trying to catch every single pullback, every single move. It's better to wait for only these high probability trades, and that is how you stay consistent and develop a higher win rate as well, which is obviously a lot better for your psychology and also your trading in general. Now, after we've identified daily and H4 direction, we're simply using the 4-hour and 1 hour to identify the more refined structure. And I've also included here that we draw on previous mitigations and structure. What I essentially mean by that is if we take a look at this picture right here, you can see that I've marked on previous structure, right? That's fairly simple. We have this breaker structure. We have a change of character just here. So price is overall bearish. But by drawing on previous mitigations, what I essentially mean is that when price pulls back, it's going to react from some sort of area, whether it be an area of supply or demand, whether it be a liquidity level, or whatever the case may be, in order to sort of assess what price is doing and to give us sort of a more defined trading range, which we'll come to in step 2 in a minute. I'm drawing on previous mitigations like this. So I'm essentially just boxing off that region that price reacted from previously. And this is going to, like I said, help us when we come to identifying points of interest where we look to buy or sell from. And that leads very nicely into step 2, which is very simply, where are we actually going to buy or sell from, right? Because it's all well and good having marked the overall directional bias and the overall trend, but we need to actually look for buys and sells in line with that market direction. And this is where the points of interest come into play. Now, for me, I basically have 2 different points of interest. The first one is very simply an area of supply or demand, and I have a few different criteria for this. So essentially, it obviously varies situation to situation, but in essence, the area of interest that I'm looking for is an area of supply or demand in the current trend leg. So here we can see this was the current bearish trend leg. I'm looking within this range, like I mentioned before, for an area of imbalanced supply. That's one of the criteria. It must create imbalance. And then I'm simply looking for price to pull back into this area. And that brings us over to step 3, which is where we're looking for some sort of confirmation, right? Because we don't want to just blindly buy or sell from these points of interest. We want to make sure that in order to give the trade the highest chance of playing out, we want to wait for price to come up into that level, wait and observe price and react to what it shows us rather than predicting the market. Another thing I like to emphasize inside VIP, which is react to price, don't try to predict exactly where it's going to go. And what do I exactly mean by this? Well, in essence, what I'm simply doing is I'm kind of having a few different points of interest in mind, right? So whether it be this one, whether it be the liquidity level above, we obviously don't know beforehand which one the price is going to come up and react from. So I kind of just keep that open-minded approach where we could maybe see price come into that supply, but we could also see it come to a more premium one as well, or a previous liquidity level that would equally be valid. But essentially how I'm looking to trade this is by looking at lower time frame market structure. In my case, to simplify it as much as possible, I'm always using the same lower time frame. I'm using the M5 time frame only, and I'm simply looking at market structure on this time frame in order to gauge whether price wants to hold the area or not. So very simply what we're doing is we're going down to the M5 time frame. So if we get up the charts, imagine that price is pulling back into that area of supply, right? On the M5 time frame, this is going to look like a bullish trend because it's a pullback, right, on higher time frame. So that's going to be bullish on lower time frame. I'm then simply waiting for price to close below, not wick below, that's important, close below the most recent higher low in that 5-minute uptrend. And then I'm simply looking for an area of imbalance to set a limit, and then I'm looking to take price lower from that. If we have the opposite scenario where price is pulling back on the higher time frame and is in an overall bullish trend, let's imagine we have an area of previous demand to the left. So let's say we have this area. As price pulls back on higher time frame, this is going to look like a bearish trend on the 5-minute. So what I'm simply looking for is for price to close above the most recent lower high. I'm then waiting for a pullback into the imbalance, and then I'm looking to set a limit on that area, and I'm looking to buy up to target some previous levels to the left. And that's really it. It's as simple as that. You can simply follow it every single time like this in a simple, logical, step-by-step process to sort of remove any of the uncertainty and ambiguity that comes with trading. Now, where are we targeting? This brings us over to step 4, and where should we position our stop loss? One thing I see a lot of the people, particularly in the SMC and ICT space, doing is they'll have these really sort of sniper entries. They'll try and get a very tight stop loss in order to, you know, have like a 1 to 10 risk to reward or something like that. For me, and what I found backtesting over several years and also live trading the same system for around 5 years now, is that if you have these ultra tight stop losses or you go for these crazy risk to reward trades, it's not a sustainable approach. Your win rate is going to be terrible, and this is going to lead to things like tilt, because the psychology is very hard to handle for 99% of people. So what I've personally found, and I've optimized this based on, like I said, 5 years worth of live data and also several other years worth of backtesting data, the optimal approach I have found is just to mechanically target a 1 to 3 risk to reward. And by the way, this is a game changer if you haven't already tried it out. And in terms of where we're placing the stop loss, we are putting it in a logical place that invalidates the setup. So for example, if we have this sort of price formation here where we have that change of character, I'm positioning the stop loss just a little bit above the supply in case price wants to re-grab that high before going lower, because that's also a possibility we have to consider. But if it came any higher than this, the trade would be invalidated for me, so I wouldn't want to still be in it, hence why I positioned the stop loss just here. And that is essentially it, guys. There are a few more nuanced details down here, such as prop firm risk management and also key processes that I use to journal trades and to improve, doing something called ASR, which is like a period performance review, so weekly, monthly, quarterly performance review. And you guys can find this training plan completely for free in the description below, so make sure to check that out. But that's everything I wanted to walk through in terms of the actual strategy. So now let's head over to the charts and let's actually start to test the system. Alright guys, so thanks for joining me here over on the charts. So we'll get right into things. We'll get rid of all of the previous markings and we will start from a completely blank chart. So what we can see here over on the daily chart, which as you guys remember, step 1 in the trading plan, is to look at this overall sort of higher time frame market direction, right? So what I'm essentially seeing here, what we had marked last time, was the fact that overall price had kind of broken out of this daily bullish trend. You can see it sort of rolling over to the downside. And if we're looking at the more macro term trend as well, we have this sort of view where price has broken into a new low on daily time frame. We've seen that pull back into an area of previous supply that price reacted from. And then, like I said, we have this move down. We can see price starting to pull back, but at the moment, I'm kind of thinking this is probably a retracement for more downside. And at the end of last session, you can also see that price had started to grab some of these previous highs, tapping into that imbalance above. If we head over to the 4-hour chart as well, you can see that once price swept this liquidity level, it starts to kind of break back bearish. You can see it here. If we actually go over to the 1 hour, you can see we had this initial change of character right here. Price then pulls back and starts to make its way back down. So what we could maybe see now, let's have a look on the 4 hour. So what I'm actually thinking, if price is going to stay bearish, right, it's probably going to respect this supply. If it doesn't respect this supply and it breaks higher, then maybe we can kind of change the bias and look for the buys instead. But as of right now, I would be looking at this sort of price action. I like the fact that it's created all of these lows down here as well. That's quite a good indication. And this is also one of the things I like to emphasize inside VIP as well, which is that because we are using this lower time frame system where we're using lower time frames to enter trades and also only mechanically targeting a 1 to 3 risk reward, which is quite a small risk reward, even if price isn't going to do a complete move like this and does something like this instead, before price continues higher, it doesn't really matter whether we get the higher time frame direction right or wrong, because we can still look to capitalize on that small reaction from these areas where we know that price is highly likely to react from. So in this case, we have this area of supply. We have some very clear areas of previous liquidity just below it. So based on all of these factors, we can be quite confident that price will at least give some sort of reaction from this area of supply. So if we just play price on, it hasn't yet reached it. Right, there we go. So price has now reached that supply zone. So this is why we head over to the M5 chart, and we're simply looking for that entry model, which is to see price break the current higher low. So let's have a look if it can do that. Okay, did this close below? Remember, we need to see a closure below as well. So in this case, we have this structure, but price hasn't yet closed below it. So this is not quite valid yet. Right, there we go. So now price is closed below that area, right? So what I'm thinking here is we can just look for a pullback maybe into the supply the price is created right here. Remember also that one of the criteria that I'm using for a valid entry is that we need to see imbalance. Here we can see price created that imbalance. Above that area, all of this is already mitigated. There's no imbalance up here. So I'm going to enter on this area. And remember as well that I said, instead of trying to go for a sniper entry in a very tight stop loss like this, that the majority of people trading this sort of style would do, I'm just going to position it up here above that high, because that's a logical place that makes sense for me. If it comes above this high, I don't want to be in the trade anymore. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to mechanically target a 1 to 3 risk reward. Very simple system, takes all of the sort of uncertainty out of where to target. I just want to take one quick break to ask you one question. Have you been enjoying these backtesting sessions? If you have, I would have really appreciated it if you could drop a like below the video. This not only helps us to reach more people, but it also makes sure that YouTube recommends you my future backtesting videos so that you don't miss out on any. So thank you, and let's get back into the video. Because if, for example, you're using a more discretionary TP, you don't really know oftentimes where to target, right? You could target this liquidity level, you could target this one, you could target the demand, you could target, all the way at these previous lows. There's not really any consistency in terms of where you're targeting, which is why this 1 to 3 risk reward system works so well. So let's see how this goes. Price has just tagged us in. We have a nice reaction so far as well. As you guys can see, pretty perfect entry there. So let's just play this out and let's see how it goes. Like I mentioned as well, I don't make my trades break even and I don't take partials. I simply let them run to stop loss or take profit. And again, this is the optimum approach I found through several years worth of testing this system. Let's have a look. And there we go. So TP hit. And like I mentioned as well, if you had made this trade break even, you probably would have been tagged out. But there was no reason for me to make it break even. So just holding the trade. The thing about this, I'm not really liking how sort of corrective this move down is. It doesn't really have a lot of intent. When you typically see a move like this, it's normally just a pullback for higher prices. We can see I still have that bearish narrative, so we can look for further sells. If we're looking for further sells, where could we see price come into? At the moment, not really seeing anything, so I'm just going to let price play on a little bit more. Okay, no, so buys are out of the question now. We can see price very clearly moving over to the downside from the area of supply. And cool, you can see as well, there's not really anything here for it to react from. This is just pure volume, and it's just an imbalanced range. You wouldn't expect price to react from this, so still looking for further shorts. In terms of points of interest, maybe we could see price retrace into this sort of consolidation. But let's have a look. Let's see how it develops. Nothing just yet anyway. Yeah, still nothing here that I would be looking for. Maybe if we can get a sweep of that Asia high, that would be quite nice. Yeah, so this is what I would kind of be looking out for here. If we can get a sweep of this. Actually, there might be an opportunity to buy here. What I'm thinking is that prices retrace down, right? And so I'm kind of keeping an open mind here. One thing that I like to do is, like I said in the introduction, react to price rather than predict. So keeping an open mind, keeping in mind that this could still be bullish and we could be wrong, and that price could continue over to the upside. Well, we could instead view this, from the perspective that this move down was simply a retracement into discounted pricing. And the reason I'm thinking that is because price has just taken out this last sort of liquidity level that we had in this range. And then on lower time frames, you can start to see it shift bullish. We had a grab of these previous lows just here. If we go over to the 5 minute as well, it's a lot clearer. So grab a previous lows. We then had this change of character. Price has created an area of imbalanced demand just here. So I'm actually going to execute this in terms of the buys. I have stops just below that next demand. You can see this one down here. If price comes any lower than that, I don't want to be in the trade. And I'll just go for that 1 to 3 risk reward again, and we'll see how this goes. So let's set the limit. Okay, so it doesn't look like it's pulling back for us. Do I still want to be in this trade now that it's swept that high? Yeah, so I'm going to keep the limit for now. Yeah, okay, so that was a loss. We had the wrong bias there. The original bias was correct, as you guys can see. Grabbed that liquidity level and then headed back over to the downside. So really just seeing more continuations now. See how price develops from here. Oh damn, so I think the buys were right. We just got an early entry. Yeah, you can see price swept that demand instead of held it. So that's completely fine. We'll move over to the next trade. Okay, nope. So it looks like price actually wants to continue over to the downside. So you can see it came back up, respected that 4-hour supply, and now we're getting that sell off again. Yeah, there we go. So there wasn't really an entry there. So what I'm thinking now is we can just look for price to sell down towards these lows. You can see that's the next liquidity target it's heading for. There's not really anything else for it to react from. You also then have these equal lows as well down here that we could very well see it come towards. Yeah, let's see if we can get in on a pullback and look to short down. Doesn't look like it's pulling back for us at the moment. Yeah, down, that was a crazy move. Cool, so you can actually see as well, it has now taken out those equal lows, which is a bit of a weird scenario because now that it's swept that liquidity target, this is where we could see the buys come back into play. So yeah, let's just monitor lower time frames and let's see how this develops from here. Sort of keeping an open mind again. So Yeah, in terms of structure on the lower time frames, right, this is a bit weird to read because this was the current 15-minute breaker structure, but you've had this huge impulsive move down, which price kind of looks to be filling. So as of right now, I'm not really looking for anything. So what I'm actually thinking here, right? Notice how price has swept those equal lows to the left, and now we started to see this push up. Notice how it's pulled back, but it hasn't reacted from anything. This is the next sort of supply zone that you would expect some sort of reaction from. So what I'm thinking here, given how sort of corrective price is moving down, we could look for some buying opportunities, maybe from this demand zone the price has just come into. You can see as well, it did move down very correctively into it. It's grabbed some previous lows. So if price is going to be bullish to at least this next supply, we can look for some buys within this area. Once again, drop into the M5 for the entry. So I'm looking at this region right here. We haven't seen an entry just yet, so I'm going to let price develop a bit more. Okay, so this area right here, this is the last point where I would consider buys because price has now swept that demand zone. One tip for you guys as well, you can see actually price reacting very nicely here. The tip I wanted to mention was when you see areas of supply and demand like this get swept, you want to pay extra attention to how price reacts, because a lot of the times what I've noticed is that when you see a sweep of the supply and demand, it gives a better reaction. So like in this case, we've seen price very clearly flip bullish after that reaction. It's created an area of demand. Not really expecting price to come all the way back down to this one, so I'm going to enter from this. Set my limit there, stops slightly below. Actually, if we go on the M15, what else is there? Yeah, so I'm happy to enter on this area, and we'll target a 1 to 3. Place that order. There we go, so price has tagged us in. Went slightly below the demand, that's why I never like having it just below, like I said in the introduction. So yeah, let's see how this goes. Looking good so far. And there we go, so trade played out very nicely. Sweep of the demand, lower time frame entry, and also you had this very corrective looking pullback. So that is good. We'll move on to the next trade now. So still thinking more buying opportunities up to at least that supply. We've now had another breaker structure right here. Actually, no, we haven't. We haven't had one just yet. So this gives us a nice opportunity to buy up into this high maybe. Okay, nope. So price has broken that high, right? Still looks bullish to me. This looks like a very corrective pullback. Price has tapped into this area of demand. So this is the next area where I'm looking for buys. You can see it's come down as well, grabbed all of this previous liquidity, grabbed Asia low. Let's see if we can get an entry here. Yeah, there we go. So that's perfect. We've had our change of character. One thing gold always likes to do is, well, not always, but a lot of the times, is when it comes into the supply or demand zones, it will sweep the first tap and then it will shift over to the upside afterwards. In this case, we have this area of demand which was left imbalanced. So I'm going to enter on this area. Like so, stops below this low. If it comes any lower than that, I don't want to be involved. And then again, just targeting a 1 to 3. Let's see, it looks like it's missed us so far. Yeah, okay, so that's invalid now because it broke the main high. Good analysis, but price never really pulled back for us. Still looking for the longs though. You can still see very clear bullish price action. Just kind of looking to follow this lower time frame trend essentially. Cool. I'm just going to get rid of some of this as well just to clean up the charts. What I'm thinking now is if it breaks above this supply, there's not really anything else for it to react from, so it would very likely, you know, trade back up towards some of these previous highs up here. You can see we've got those three sort of equal highs there. So looking for more buys, let's have a look at what we could see. Yeah, there you go. So price rallied straight up towards it. It's now trading within this random imbalance, so there's not really anything for it to react from for the sells, so I'm only looking for buys. Okay, so at the moment, maybe we can see it's taken out Asia low, tapped into this area of demand. This is the first area where I would consider the buys from. If it goes any lower, what else do we have? We have not really anything, to be honest. This kind of, you know, when you have a lot of momentum like this, it's not very likely going to pull like all the way back down to this demand down here, for example. So just looking at this region, I think price has just given a confirmation as well. You can see right there. So we had this pullback, price broke above it. That's our 5-minute change of character. It created some imbalance, so I'm going to look to enter. Really anywhere within this imbalance is fine for me, as long as we can get 1 to 3 on the trade before the main high is hit, which I think we can. Yeah, there we go. So we can do exactly that. Stop loss again, logical place below the low. That invalidates the trade for me. Right, there we go. So if you wanted a more refined entry, you could have actually entered from this demand, obviously, but I was fine to enter anywhere on that imbalance, so that's fine as well. So let's see if price can keep pushing. It's looking good so far. Damn, so price just wicked us out there and then went to TP. Like I said before, gold likes to do that a lot, where it sweeps the first tap of the demand and then it heads over to the upside. That's fine. We'll move on to the next trade. It was valid regardless, so just a part of the edge, really. Next buying area, maybe we could see price retrace back into, you know, we have like this whole demand zone right here. If we look on the 4 hour, what does that look like? Yeah, so it's that whole area really, or you could even refine it to this demand zone. We also actually have this area. This is another valid demand that price has just pulled back into, just following this very clear bullish trend essentially. Right, yeah, so it looks like price is coming lower. Yeah, so next area, there's not really anything else here for it to react from, so I would look for it to come down towards this area of demand. Right, there we go. So price has pulled back into it. We've tapped into that demand. Let's have a look if we can get an entry here. And like I said before, this doesn't have to be a complete move back towards the previous highs all the way up here. It could just be a small reaction. This is the Asian session though, so I'm just going to fast forward that. Nothing in terms of confirmations just yet. You can see price starting to make its way over to the upside. For a confirmation at the moment, this is the current structure. I'm on the M15 here instead of the M5 because the structure is exactly the same, meaning that this is the lower high on the M15 and on the M5. So if we can get a close above that, like we just have, we can then look for an entry. Here we also have a very clear level of imbalanced demand. So slightly missed this entry, but we should have entered on this. If I just set my limit here once again, stops just below and go for a 1 to 3. I'm also going to monitor on the M5 just in case we miss it. Damn, so price stopped this out. It is kind of reacting from the demand low though, so if it can start to flip bullish here, I'm fine to take this. Fine to re-enter, I mean. Needs to break above structure first though. Yeah, there we go. So price is starting to break above structure. This is Asian session, so I'm going to fast forward this. Next session. There we go. And where could we enter from? Okay, so notice price swept these lows. We have this area of demand down here. I would want another confirmation on this one just because price did move quite far away from it. But if we could see something like that, then I'd be happy to enter. Let's see, so price has come into that demand. It's taken out a previous low. So let's have a look. M5 time frame. What do we have? Right, there we go. So that's the change of character. Very impulsive though. Probably isn't going to pull back for us. Yeah, there we go. So it broke the main structure again. So that's no longer valid. What we can look for now that it's broken this high, still looking for price to overall target this previous liquidity. So next thought is that we've swept this last bit of internal liquidity into this imbalance. So this is the next point of interest. If not, we have this demand down here. But yeah, if we could see price react from this area, that's fine as well. Yeah, there we go. So you can see it starting to break bullish. I'm going to enter from the imbalance. Stops just below. Slightly riskier trade because there's not a clear demand zone, but this is fine. So we'll set the limit here. There we go, we're tagged in. It's not looking good at the moment. Okay, so it is starting to push. Let's see if it can continue. Cool, nice one, there we go. So 3% hit on that. Very nice bullish move as anticipated. So that's also another tip I wanted to mention here, is that when you have a big impulsive move like this, right, a lot of people I see, particularly inside VIP when they first join, is that they'll look for a retracement all the way back down here. But the thing is with that, like after you have all of this momentum coming in, you kind of have to adapt to the market conditions and kind of anticipate that you're probably, if you're going to see a pullback for the continuations, you're probably just going to see a small move down before then the continuation continues, particularly after you have this huge move up like this. So next trade, let's have a look. So obviously still very bullish price action here. We've had this break of structure. So we're now looking for this range, a buying opportunity in this range. Still hasn't taken out those highs, so still looking good for the buys. Cool, so let's have a look. Hasn't pulled back yet, so let's keep playing price. Cool, so maybe we can look at this demand zone. That would be my next POI. Kind of just consolidating at the moment. Right, there we go. Didn't hold it, but it has just taken out the demand low. So this would also be valid if price starts to break bullish from here. If not, what else do we have? We have this demand zone as well. Price wants to come a little bit lower. But yeah, at the moment you can see very clear 4-hour liquidity level that price has just taken out. So jumping over to the M5, fast forward in the Asian session. So we have just seen a change of character after that low was taken. We don't have any imbalance here though, so this isn't quite valid for me. Right, can we take a buy from here? It has closed quite far below that liquidity level, so yeah, no, I wouldn't be buying there anymore. Let's see how it reacts to this. You can see it's swept that demand zone. Five minute did flip bullish, as you guys can see, just there. And it has created an area of imbalanced demand. So like this whole region right here, that's where the volume came in. So I'm going to enter this. This is a perfectly valid trade. Stops just below the demand, and then we'll go for a 1 to 3. Logic behind this stop loss is that if it comes below this low, there's not really anything else for it to react from, so we don't really need it all the way below the low. We can just have it here. That's completely valid. Damn, so slightly missed us so far. Still valid though, I'm going to keep the limit active. Right, there we go, we're tagged in. Okay, no, loss on that one. That's fine, valid trade. Right, so I think we were just slightly early. This is another one of those situations where gold has re-grabbed the low, and now you can see it starting to flip bullish. You've got a lot of momentum coming in as well, which is obviously what you want to see for the buys. It's given us a change of character. You can see this was the main structure on the M5. This should have been the entry actually from this demand, but I played it slightly too quickly there. If we're looking for another entry, we could look to enter from this 15-minute demand now that we've had that 15-minute change of character. If price can pull back into this region, and then we'll go for that 1 to 3 target again. There we go. Let's see how this goes. So it's still valid at the moment. I'm going to keep it active. Looks like it might have missed us. Let's see. Still valid. Right, there we go. We're tagged in now. Very nice reaction actually so far. The reason I kept that active was because I was seeing all of this. Like, notice how price is just very slowly moving up, building lots of liquidity. It's stabbed back down into the POI, which was left imbalanced, and now we're getting that move. And there we go, so TP hit on that one. Very nice trade. And yeah, it has also broken that main trend high as well, which was this one right here. As you guys can see. Just zooming back out real quick as well, where could we see price trade towards? Next liquidity level we can see at target is this one. This is that previous liquidity level that price is gravitating towards. You can see below this and between where price is now, there's not anything else for it to react from. So we have a nice opportunity to buy up into that high. So let's look for another pullback to get in on the buys. Let's see if price starts to pull back first. Okay, so we have this first 15-minute demand. I like this one because you've got this previous lows resting above it. Fast forward the Asian session. You also have this more discounted one if price comes into that. So far starting to react from this initial demand. Hasn't given a change of character yet though. Actually, yeah, so this is valid. I'm going to enter here. Stops. Don't know why the stop's all the way down there. I'm going to place the stop just here. Target a 1 to 3. Reason this is valid, by the way, is because swept the demand. You can see there it shifted back bullish when it broke above this most recent high, and it created imbalance. Nice so far. Let's have a look if this can continue. And like I said before, when the demand areas get swept like this, you want to pay extra attention because that's when you can get the nicest entries. Okay, no, so little loss on that one. It did go like 2% in our favor, but then reversed. Let's have a look at this next zone. And also, what do we have below this? There's not really anything else below this, to be honest. Yeah, so let's monitor this demand. Actually, yeah, it has already given a change of character, as you guys can see. This is the area I would enter from. So let's set this trade and we'll see how this goes. If it's a loss, it's a loss, doesn't really matter. Damn, looks like it slightly missed us. Yeah, so I'm going to cancel this limit now. That's annoying. Slightly missed us, but overall analysis was good. Cool, so price is coming lower. And this is what I said, right, about the higher time frame direction. Even though price did end up coming lower, you could have still capitalized on this small move up based on that reaction from the demand. Next area I'm looking at is this area. You can see price swept that, draw on liquidity, which was leading into this imbalance. Very corrective looking pullback as well. So let's have a look. It can give us an entry here. Nothing for me here. Okay, so it's grabbed Asia low. Actually, yeah, so this could be nice. So how I'm reading this is we've had change of character. Price pulled back and held the demand. It's then broken structure again. It's pulled back and held this demand. We've now seen it sweep Asia low. And in terms of confirmations, we had one right here. Price created an area of imbalanced demand. So this is a valid trade. I'm going to enter this. Nice, let's see how this goes. Nice, so like I said before as well, don't just put the stop loss straight below the demand. It almost never works. You need to have it positioned in a logical place. In this case, we had it just below this lower demand because I thought price may also react from this one right here. So that's a good trade. Next trade now. Cool, so let's move on. It looks like it's probably just going to straight away. Actually, no, we can look for some more buying opportunities up into this previous high. What you can see price has done now is pulled back. It's taken out all of these lows and then it started to react from there. Is there a demand below this? Yeah, so let's have a look here. This is a valid area. You can see we've had a change of character there as well. Is there an area to enter from? We have this area, which is the demand. So it stops just below, 1 to 3 target again. Let's have a look. Can we get an entry? Let's see if price can push from here. If not, we can look at the lower zone. Right, there we go. So loss on that one. But what I've just seen is price has come down and it has now reacted from this extreme. All of this previous liquidity was taken out. So this is still a valid point for the entries. And this would be the entry demand. So I'm going to enter from here. Stops below the low and we'll see how this goes. Ideally I would have set a limit on this, but I played it too quickly, so we'll just do market execution from here. And we'll play this on higher time frame just so it's a bit quicker for you guys. I didn't really explain that either, but thought process behind this is that it's tapped into this extreme demand, which caused a sort of change of character here. Gave us a 5-minute change of character and then pulled back into the demand. Cool, there we go. So trade played out, a nice 3% on that one. And cool, so we've now seen price break structure again. Could still look for one final buying opportunity up into the liquidity. You can see prices approaching that level now. So let's have a look if we can see that. If not, we can look for sells from the liquidity. Yeah, there we go. So prices swept that liquidity level now. Ideally here, you want to be a bit cautious with the buys, and if not, look for some sells instead. Yeah, there you go. So you can see it starting to break 15-minute structure to the downside. If we zoom back out, what do we have? So what I'm thinking here is that even if this isn't going to be, you know, like a complete reversal, you could at least see price, if we're looking on the 4-hour, target these previous lows. You can just see, right, there's not really anything here that price would likely react from, because this is just pure volume. There's nothing for it to react from. So if we're looking for an entry for the sells, we could look for a pullback into maybe this supply zone. Only if price pulls back though, which it doesn't look like it's doing. And yeah, there we go. So it has now broken that 4-hour structure as well. Yeah, so buyers aren't valid for me anymore here. You can see price very clearly cause a change of character. We've got a lot of volume coming in as well. So what I'm thinking now is if we get rid of all of this just to see things more clearly, you can just see, right, price gravitating towards all of these previous lows that we had down here. So this is the next idea, just to look for some shorts down into this level. Now that that higher time frame liquidity was taken. If we're looking for the sells, we have this area of supply. We could maybe see price come back into that. Cool. If not, we also have this area of supply and also this liquidity level. Looking at the current the current hourly trend leg, which was this one. So let's have a look how it reacts to this. Yeah, there we go. So you can see price starting to break bearish from there. This should be change of character. Change the color of this. We have an area of supply up here. So this would be a valid trade. If price can pull back into this area, I'm going to look to short straight from this area right here that we have. If not, we can obviously look for that more premium level just above. But for now, this is valid. So I'm going to set this. We'll do limit order, not market execution. Nice, there we go. So 3% hit on that. And looks like price is reversing as well now. Yeah, there we go. So that was perfect. Perfect entry, perfect TP. Price reversed straight afterwards. And like I said before, that's the benefit of that 1 to 3 risk reward system, which is that even if you're wrong about the sort of overall direction, here price didn't continue to the downside, for example, you can still look to capitalize on the move. So what I'm looking for now is either sells from here, now that it's taken that liquidity. Yeah, you can see it starting to break bearish there, but not really an entry, so gonna just keep playing price here. Very corrective at the moment. Right, so it did take the lows, but now it's come back up, re-grabbed the high, tapped into this area of supply. So I'm going to look for a sell here. If you look on the 4 hour as well, still got all of these lows just below. So yeah, let's see if it breaks bearish here. Yeah, there we go. That's what I was looking for. You can see very clear shift bearish. We've got an area of supply right here. So this would be a valid trade. I'm actually going to enter on this more premium one. Stops slightly above the high, allowing a little bit of room in case price wants to take it out. And the reason I'm entering on this more premium one is because the price did not create any liquidity below this zone. So this, in my opinion, becomes the liquidity. So you want to ideally enter above it. Okay, no, so now it's valid. I'm going to enter on this lower region. Stops just above the high. And like I said, the reason this lower one has become valid is because you've got this liquidity just below it. Right, there we go. So we're tagged in. Didn't respect that first zone, but could still respect this top supply zone. Nice, there we go. So TP hit on that one, 3%. And nice one, guys. So I'm going to end the video here. If you did enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you missed any of the previous backtesting sessions, I would recommend watching this one next. If you guys want to access the full strategy, like I said, the trading plan will be completely for free in the description below. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.